Hello everyone, this is Zeeebo and welcome to the Zeebest Day 1 Dream Realm Boss Guide for Necrodrakon. So for Necrodrakon on the early game itself, I actually found a few interesting teams that is actually decently viable, and I'll also talk about my best team, right, in terms of the damage output later. So I shared a replay, right, of myself using the Lightbearer comp. So this comp is still solid because the high mobility coming out from all the different units allows for the units to not take the debuff from the Necrodrakon itself. So for those of you guys who do not know, right, what I'm talking about is actually this Abyss Crest over here. So if your units are relatively mobile, the unit will not be debuffed by this skill, and then that's where they're able to hit harder and then survive better, right? This is the debuff skill that increases the damage from the boss. And right, this mobility team consisting of Tamasia, Corinne, as well as our dear Merrily is still decently good, and considering the fact that true damage hasn't really picked in terms of the damage scaling side, I think this team will definitely become better moving forward. So if you're fighting Necrodrakon, you can definitely try this team to see whether or not you can get better damage compared to like the standard mauler team, compared to the standard like Lily May talene combo, in case you don't have those units. Okay, so this is one team. Later I'll showcase the positioning and explain the team building rationale. And then for the best team, it is one featuring Lily May, Shakir, Mikola, as well as talene. Like talene is probably one of the stronger unit in the early to mid game right now. So later on I'll showcase this team with my friend's account who has talene there. And then I'll also be showcasing my very own best team featuring a full mauler with the celestial hypogean combos. Okay, and there's also this team where people feature the protection of torrent on one of the carries to protect the carry so that they last through the boss's damage and then jam in a little bit more damage. So this is one team option as well. So without further ado, right, let's start with the very first team, which is my very own best team on this account. So I'm running the full mauler setup with Mikola as well as Odie and Shakir being the mauler core, and then Reina obviously there for the buffing as well as debuff on the boss. So an interesting alternative for me in the place of Coco is actually Fresto. So if you don't have Fresto, you can obviously use Coco to do pretty much the same thing. I'll say pretty much, but not exactly the same, and I'll explain why. So you can use Coco as well because Coco provides a massive damage reduction and shielding to keep your unit alive. But because I'm actually running the resonating spell right here, when I actually use my Fresto, right, so Fresto is for those of you guys who have him, but if you don't have him, it's fine, just use Coco, right? I'm using Fresto with Coco for two reasons. One, it's for the resonating spell additional buff, because this resonating spell designates an ally as a resonator, and when your ally or like whoever in the team uses the ultimate, you'll be able to grant an attack bonus as well as an energy regen on the resonator, which is OD right here. So having two units right here, right, Fresto as well as the illusion, procs this ability twice, so extending the buff duration on OD. And on top of that, Fresto's illusion has a 14% damage reduction, which is permanent. So Coco's ultimate technically is sort of permanent once she's able to activate it, but then there will be a downtime where there's no damage reduction. Whereas for Fresto's case, other than the resonator synergy, you're also able to get this permanent damage reduction on OD, which will help OD survive the final blast coming out from Necrodrakon, as you guys will see later on, right? So there's this final blast coming out from Necrodrakon that pretty much kills anyone right now except for the teams with talene. Okay, so for this one, right, Fresto also offers another bonus compared to Coco, and that is 1% additional stat on attack and HP, which allowed me to survive a little bit better. So that RNG factor for me to inch out that little bit of damage is the reason why I chose Fresto. So for this one, I'm gonna tune the levels of Shakir, and then I'm also gonna tune the levels of Mikola just to allow her to survive better. So I think Mikola and Shakir needs no explanation. The double aura stacking is insanely powerful. I think I'm gonna move Reina here to give Mikola a freer pathway to run in front. So this is the full mauler setup with Fresto. So if you don't have Fresto, just use Coco in the place. Okay, so there's a full mauler one. Let's run this battle and see the damage. So my level right now is 423 across the carries, and then we are 421 on the supports as well as Fresto. Okay, so right here you can see Shakir's aura buffing the two illusions, and Mikola's Aura buffing one illusion, Shakir as well as OD. So at the same time, because the Resonator is on OD, whenever another unit uses their ultimate, we will be able to actually get the buff on OD to jam in some more damage. So right here, that final burst of damage is where the units all die, unfortunately. Like, I think that blast basically wipes out almost everyone. Later on, I'll showcase some replays with other teams, but you guys can see I broke my own personal best once again at 881 million. Okay, so if you take a look at Fresto damage, pretty decent. Okay, considering that I'm using him more for the synergy as well as the damage reduction for my carry itself. Okay, so this is the Mauler team. Another, I'll be saving my, okay, another interesting team setup. Let me see how many attempts I have. Okay, I have 7 out of 10. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to showcase another team, which is the Lightbearer team, which I used just now for my replay. So this one, I'll be running Termeasure in the front, and then we will be running Merrily here. And we obviously will be running Reina for the debuff. Let me do some level scaling first. So scale up my, this one, scale up my Termeasure, and scale up my Corin. Okay, so based on my replay just now, what I observed is that Corin, hold on. Okay, maybe Vala might be better. Yeah, because right now true damage ain't exactly the strongest. We'll do some comparison to the damage later on, but for this one, I'll still be using Resonating Spell because my units will be able to use their ultimates freely, and that is where I kind of want the Resonating Spell to proc more on Vala for her to do more damage. And I'm actually thinking whether or not the last slot should go to Lily May or maybe another buffer to keep my team alive. I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a Torrent just to protect Vala, so that Vala can do a little bit more damage from there. So without further ado, let's try this, okay? So obviously Torrent can still be used as a damage sponge. If you don't have like all the other units mentioned developed, Torrent is able to protect one carry from this blast ability from the boss. So if your carry can survive a little bit better, that's where you will be able to jam in a little bit more damage. So the reason why I'm using Vala is because we're not in endless mode, so the boss will drop below 50% HP, and that's where Vala will enter the EX weapon state, where if you have Vala's EX weapon, that's where you're able to do additional damage based on the boss's lost HP. So this is where Vala is hitting hard. Okay, so right here I think 846, not as good as the OD team just now, but I think it's pretty decent considering the fact that I was actually playing around with Torrent. So I think if I have used Fresto to do the same thing that I did to protect Vala, I might be able to do really decent damage. So this is another team option for you guys. Okay, so this is for those of you guys who have the Lightbearers, the old meta unit for Necrodrakon. I think this team is still really solid. Okay, so this is team number 2. Another team that I actually tried out with decent result is actually a Lanyard team. So let me just double check. Yeah, right here. So this is the Lanyard team, 847. Okay, so this is the formation. So the idea, it's pretty much the same as the OD one. So instead of OD being the carry, I actually ran Lanyard as the carry because Lanyard is a melee character and Lanyard is able to jump around with her ultimate. So Lanyard actually won't get debuffed. Like, she might if the timing of her skills doesn't go in line with the crest debuff, but most of the time she will be jumping around, and that's where she don't get hit by the debuff that much. But then I think similar to all the other matches, that final blast is where it determines whether or not you can actually jam in more damage. So that's where most of the units die, and that's where a lot of these teams stop at the 840 mil mark, right? So this is the Lanyard team, this is the OD team. I think the OD team is generally better, and I think if you don't have Lanyard, then just use the OD one, okay? But if you have the Lightbearer one and you don't have your other units developed, you can also try the Lightbearer one. I think it's generally also really good. So for Fresto's case, if you don't have Fresto, just use Coco, right? We use Fresto for the damage reduction, for the fractional bonus, as well as a little bit more damage. But I think Coco does the job pretty decently. I think I have a run without Fresto. Yeah, over here, Coco over here. So Coco at the 840 mil. So roughly around the same damage. I think it depends on the final min-maxing of your account in terms of what units you want to use, right? In terms of the artifacts of choice, I think if you're using Fresto, running the resonating is better. That additional buff will squeeze out a little bit more damage. If you're not running Fresto, then I think Verdant might be better because Verdant gives more defensive stat, allowing your units to survive a little bit better. So I think just try an error based on your own account to see whether or not you can get better damage numbers. So with that, these are for the people without talene. Okay, so for those of you guys who have talene in your collection and you got decent charm set, so this is, I'll say, like slightly unfortunate because most of the teams that were able to clear this boss had the talene charm set right here, which provided massive damage boost to her ultimate. And then they also had the Lily May charm set right here, as you guys can see. So this is pretty much the exact same team setup as the OD one, but except that they remove Fresto, put in Lily May, and then use talene as the main carry in the position of OD. Okay, so this is for those of you guys who has talene in your team, right? So you can try this. And without further ado, let's run through the replay. Okay, so how it works is like this. So I have another, I'll say, viewer who has talene as well, but unfortunately he wasn't able to clear common one because he doesn't have talene's charm set. So I believe, right, you need to have a sufficient level or equipment stat, and then you need the charm set to actually clear common one even if you have talene. So that is what I believe to be the case. But if you don't have talene, I think you probably have to wait for your stats on your OD to hit hard enough for you to hit the 95% threshold to insta-kill Necrodrakon. Okay, so that is for those of you guys running the OD team, right? You can actually insta-kill the boss at 95%. Okay, so for this boss itself, as you guys can see, talene is not only the damage dealer, talene is also the healer for the team. Because one thing that people often forget is that when talene is channeling her skill, she's also providing the heal for the whole team. And another advantage that talene has, which the other units doesn't, is when Lily May is in the inbound state, if talene is actually dead, she will actually have some time to actually recover and come back before Lily May lands. So this is where Lily May will be able to jam damage, talene will be able to buy some time, draw some attention away, and then come back and do damage. So this is a time where the talene came back after the Lily May died, so the battle just end there. So this is the best damage team on my district right now. Okay, this is probably the best team setup based on the different synergies. So talene is really good against Necrodrakon as well. So let me see. I do have a replay with talene. Yeah, so for OD's case, let's say if you're not running the OD team that I'm running, if your OD is not as developed, you can just slot in Lily May for OD, for example. Or let me just check whether or not I have a Lily May replay. So I have a Lily May replay right here. So this Lily May did a lot less compared to my friend's one. And then this is one with Lily May as the main carry. So pretty much the same range, 830 to 860 range, but personally for me, my best was the one with the full mauler set. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this video. Thank you very much for tuning in. Hopefully you guys find the best comp to optimize your own damage. I'll see you guys again in my next video. Bye guys.